Hey everybody, John here. This is the Midnight Paint and Body channel. In this video we have this giant black truck that is missing a bunch of the bottom. We're going to take care of that. So yes, what we're working on is an 03 Chevy truck. Truck is in pretty good shape. We're definitely gonna need, oh boy, definitely need pins and bushings in that door, but door is coming off anyway, so what we're gonna be doing on this one is rocker and cab corner singular. So now this one, obviously the rocker is completely gone. The inner rocker is also completely gone. So, interestingly, the other side is fine. I think the fella said that the guy that he bought this truck from said it had been hit the other side or something, so it got repaired on that side. Must have had a new rocker put on it because it's totally fine. So that's good. So the first thing we're gonna do, well actually first thing we'll do is have a look at our parts. So what we've got is a full OE style rocker. Now these are the only ones I use. You can get the cheapy slip-on ones. These ones are heavy, like 14 gauge heavy. I've actually got a sheet metal gauge. I should put it on one of these days. But like these things are solid. So these are the only ones I use. They're not cheap, but it's worth it. In this case, we are doing an inner as well. So here's our inner rocker. So, inner rocker, RRP 2773. The rocker panel itself, RRP 1405. So that RRP, that is the rust repair panel. Means they are a partial panel. And a cab corner, an RRP 149. Now I get asked all the time where I get these parts from. I deal with LKQ Canada, that's where I get everything. They don't sell to the public. I have an account with them, so I'm able to buy from them. But pretty much any auto parts store will deal with Keystone LKQ, I'm sure. Everyone I've ever dealt with. So any auto parts store can get you this stuff, and those are the part numbers you need. So, our first step, as always on a job like this, is to get the box off. Hopefully this thing isn't full of stuff. We can maybe just leave it on. But now I'm noticing this is going to be a giant pain in the ass, this stupid bumper. I can pretty much guarantee I don't want to take that bumper off. But I'm going to have to lift this box way higher than I would normally lift them. And of course this truck is already so freaking high. Maybe I'll let the air out of the tires. I'll figure it out. I'll quit complaining. I'm still feeling crappy and miserable getting over stupid COVID. Anyway, let's get started. Let's get this box off and we'll move on to the rocker. I hate lifted trucks. Everything is too high up. Okay. So you guys probably know this part, and if you watch my channel. So at this point, we're ready to start removing the rocker. So I'm basically just going around all of these spot welds and drilling them out. I tell you guys this all the time, I just use a big drill bit. It's where it works best for me. Belt sanders, belts are expensive. I just don't find them to be as fast as this, personally. So, you guys use what you think is best, If you think a belt sander's better, that's great. It just doesn't seem to work for me. So I just take these, I drill them about halfway through. You don't want to drill all the way through because we need to weld to that back panel when we put the new one on. So I'm just going to work my way around a bunch of these. Yeah, basically drill them out. And yeah, I'm not going to get too much farther today. It's almost the end of the day. And yeah, in the morning we'll just continue on. So yeah, what's going to be different on this video than all the other rocker panel videos I've done? Not a damn thing. It's the same thing I do over and over. Although we're putting an inner in this one. We haven't, a lot of the time these trucks that I've been doing, they haven't needed inners. So I haven't put an inner panel in for a while. So I'll show you guys that. Maybe that'll be interesting. For now, I'm just gonna keep on drilling. Well, good morning, everyone. It is the next day. So yesterday I just started trimming off the rocker panel. We're going to get back to that in a minute. There is something I wanted to show you guys now. I've always mentioned how thick and heavy these rockers that I use are. So I've just cleaned off a little bit of the factory rocker and a little bit on this new rocker. I just want to make sure there's no burrs or anything on the edges. So this is just a cheapy sheet metal gauge. So I'm guessing this is probably 18 gauge. Let's see. I should put my glasses on for this. Well, there's 19. And that's a snug fit. And so the bigger the number, the thinner the sheet metal. Actually, there's 20. I don't know if you guys can see that. I know the light's not very good. So there's on the 20 gauge. That actually, 19. So yeah, so I'd say that's actually 20 gauge. No, I just kind of took the burrs off the edge and took the paint off a little bit. You can see we still just down to primer, so I didn't take that metal down much. Now this is the aftermarket rocker. Now this, I give you the part number on this. This is the OE style rocker. Now you can buy, actually, well that's a Dodge one, but that's just the cheap slip-on style rocker. So the Chevy ones are similar, probably made out of the same sheet metal. But these are thin, so there's 20 gauge there. So yeah, 20 gauge fits. Actually, yeah, so 20 gauge. Pretty standard. 18 to 20 is usually what we use in making panels. Now this is our aftermarket rocker, so where are we at here? So there's 17, 16, 15, there's 14. I figured these were probably 14, but honestly even at 14 won't go on there. 13 is super loose, 14 won't quite go on. So I'm going to call these 14 gauge. So the difference between 20 gauge and 14 gauge is huge. So now, of course, these are probably made in China. They're maybe not the best quality steel, I don't know, but the fact is they're heavy, they're thick, and that makes them kind of structural. So, you know, you think about the strength of 20 gauge compared to this is skookum stuff. And so that's going to take me to another point, something when I've done inner rockers on these trucks, what I normally do. Now these have this centerpiece, which doesn't really do anything, but I'm assuming is just meant to be structural. So here's what we're replacing, is this inner rocker, which is right on the inside. So I usually take this guy out and just leave it out. Quite honestly, I don't know if they even make this in the aftermarket ones. Maybe they do, I just never look for it. Because the way I figure, once we put that inner rocker on and that heavy outer rocker, we have all the structure we need. Now, of course, pickup trucks are cab on frame. It's not like it's a unibody, so, I mean, this is a full frame holding everything up. I mean, this thing's bolted in 3 places right here. So, this cab isn't moving. Like, this isn't structural in the sense that the cab's going to shift by cutting the rocker panel off. Like if you were cutting the rocker panel off a Camaro, whatever, a unibody car, that could cause that car to collapse. It's not happening on a pickup truck. So, with all that out of the way, I'm going to continue on with some trimming. So, like I said, this inside rocker piece is going away completely. Now, in this case, what I always do with these trucks, I've told you guys this a million times because I've done a lot of these videos, but typically I will trim our new rocker right about here and just butt it up. Because the metal is good, it's almost always good on these right at the front. You know, these don't rust out up here. They rust out as things go back because all the water and dirt stays in here. The dirt and everything goes to the back. It stays wet. That's what rusts out your panels. So the front's typically good. You can take the fender off and do that rocker right up into here, but I almost always splice them around here. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to continue trimming and I'll bring you guys back in a bit. Whoa, that one's got a lot of foam. So, this is the most flammable substance on earth. You don't want this shit in there when you're welding a truck together. This has got to go. These usually have a plastic stopper right about there, and then from the factory they get some foam put in the top. But and I've heard a lot of guys over the years, I always say, oh, they rust out because the factory puts foam in there. I don't think that is what causes these to rust out. I mean, look, this is clean. The rust didn't even come up to it. These rust out because they eventually fill up with dirt and moisture. The dirt sits in there, the dirt stays wet, it rusts everything out. And that's just the way it works. They rust from the inside. They're all the same, Ford, Dodge, Chevy, whatever you're working on. They all have little bits of foam. Now this is a sound deadener and like a weather stop, I guess. So this is going to stop all that dust and shit from getting up inside the cab. So now this also kind of airtights the cab. And you see pickups always have this vent. Cars usually have it in behind the back bumper cover. Now this is just an air release. When you close your door, all that air that's displaced inside the cab, it puffs out here. You'll actually see these little flaps open up and the air come out of those vents. So that's what those vents are for. Slam your door, air comes out there. So anyway, just a little bit of trivia. So I'm going to continue a little more trimming and we'll be back in a minute. So here's a whole bunch of our outer rocker and our inside piece of the rocker. Everything's kind of trimmed out of the way, so this is just leaving us with the inner rocker, which is the piece we are replacing. So here is our inner rocker. Now, as you can see, this piece would go right up inside the cab corner, and the same at the front. So we're not cutting that whole front out of there. I don't want to take the fender off. These trucks are kind of a pain in the ass. There's all kinds of, on the diesels, there's a ton of crap attached to the inside of the fender. The hood hinge attaches, and this has these giant bumpers on it, which I don't want to take off. Now, you might be thinking, oh dude, you're cutting corners. It's okay to cut a few corners as long as you're not, I'm not leaving rust. Yes, I'm cutting some corners. Now, might be a good time for my disclaimer. I'm just an average dude that does body work. My customers, for the most part, are average working dudes that need their trucks fixed. I don't charge like some guys charge. I've managed to make a living at this and it's tough. But if I'm cutting a few corners, that's to keep my prices low sometimes. It's not like I'm charging for something and not doing it. So keep that in mind. Now, I think most guys would be, if I say, you know what, I could do this and this and this, but it's going to add 10 hours to the bill. Or I can do it this way, which is totally fine. That's going to leave those 10 hours off the bill. Most guys are going to opt to save a little money. It's still getting done right. So you guys can say what you want about that. I don't care. Just showing you the way I do things. I'm not telling you that this is the way you should do it, or that it is the best way to do it. It's just the way I do it. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So, because we're not going right up in behind there, because we have good metal here, I'm going to be trimming the bottom of this. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to be trimming off the bad part, and then I'll probably trim right up around here somewhere. So I'm going to be doing the same with this panel. So I'll probably trim this part off, and I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch of this. I'm going to overlap this onto that back part and plug weld, and then everything will be treated. So this bottom is all going to be replaced, so we're just not getting right up inside. And I'm going to do the same at the front. So this entire panel is still getting replaced. We're just not replacing this part where the metal is still good. So that's my explanation. So, these are straightforward. I will just be punching holes all the way along and plug welding, but then this panel is coming off. So here's the factory plug welds all along there. You want to always make sure you save stuff like this. So those are going to go back in to the new panel, but not until after I've got it all treated. So I'm going to go have a cup of coffee. And when I come back, we're going to cut some more metal out of this thing. Jumped ahead a little bit here, guys. I actually wanted to get a little more access on this one so I could come up higher with the rocker. So I meant getting this trim out of the way. Now these are always a bugger. You have to take the rear seat out to get this out. I don't need to take it completely out. I just wanted to get it out of the way, and that's good enough. These seats, if you ever have to take them out, I probably should have showed it, didn't think of it. 2 18mm nuts on this side. This side's covered by a piece of trim, so this mounts there. 2 on the other side, and there's 1 right in the center. See this cable deal here? You've got to get that one off of there. And then these seats, see these hooks? They go into these. So once you've got it all unbolted, this whole seat, and they're quite heavy, needs to lift straight up to get it off the back. Now, I did all that just to get this trim out of the way. I'm not taking the seat right out. It can stay there. That's fine. Part of the reason I did that too is because we got a lot of rust and crap in this trough. Yeah, you see these. This is the retainer for. Yeah, where did I put them? So these have these plastic troughs that sit in there on this retainer, and that's all to hold this wiring in. So I did want to clean this up for the fella. He obviously keeps this truck pretty nice, so I figured that little extra would be good to do for him. So I'm going to get all that out of there. Found a few treasures. Found a bead bracelet. 11 cents. Rusty nail. And some 22 shells. Spent 22 shells. Uh-oh. So yeah, you can see how much that moisture gets into these things. Now, when you live like where we do with 4 seasons, this is pretty common. I mean, you get in these trucks in the wintertime, you kick off your boots, the carpet's getting wet. It's super common. If you live in a super dry climate, you won't get this. But yeah, so I'm just gonna vacuum all this crud out of here. And then when I treat these inner rockers, I'll treat in here just with some rust preventative stuff. Just a little extra for the customer. So I'm gonna do that, and then I will bring you guys back shortly. So there we are, a little bit of trimming. Bring this end down, see this end. Just cut the end off of that one. This is just... So there we go. So here's what I was talking about, just leaving a bit of this old panel here. So all along here, we're just going to punch some holes, and this is going to just plug weld right to that existing flange, and then the same around here on the cab mounts. We'll drill some holes, and that'll be welded all around there, and this one as well. Actually, I should show you this end. I'm kind of one-handed here, guys. How about I put the camera down? So now you can see this is going to slide in, so what I'm going to do here, drill some holes in this and just plug weld to that panel. So there we are. So it fits decent. I just need to put some holes in this thing. I'm gonna coat all of this stuff that you see back here with weld through primer before this panel goes over top. And when we come back, we'll do some welding. I have all the holes punched in our new panel. Some weld through primer put on both surfaces where it's gonna be clamped together or welded together. So we are ready just to clamp this guy in place and start welding after lunch. So here is our inner rocker welded on. So pretty straightforward. Drill a bunch of holes, bunch of plug welds. So that thing is solid. So before the outer rocker goes on, this will all be treated. Now this is galvanized, but I'll probably just brush paint it with some rust preventative stuff like POR 15. So yeah, not much more to that. So we're gonna start fitting our outer rocker. So I don't want to paint it yet when I'm doing all the fitting and stuff, because then I'm messing around with wet paint. So we'll get our outer rocker all fitted, and then we'll coat all of this before we weld it on. So I'm gonna dig that out and we'll get going on that piece. So a little check in here, guys. I better film before I forget. So the way I always do these rockers, now you see I've been kind of trimming the truck part, and I've been trimming the rocker part. We're still overlapped here a bit. We're not fit yet, but I figured I should bring you in before I fit everything. I'm gonna keep just cutting little bits until I have this fitting perfectly. So a perfect butt match against the original metal. And then I'll be doing the same here. I'll be cutting this back so that it's not overlapped, so that I'm butted right up against the factory metal. So yeah, as you can see, this still needs to be fit quite a bit. I'm just at the beginning stages, but I kind of wanted to let you guys know how I do them. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep trimming away. Yeah, not quite sure how I managed that. Anyway, before I bother trying to make that perfect, we'll move up to the front and do our trimming up there. We'll make sure the front fits before I bother making the back fit. Now, that piece I just cut out of there, I'm going to end up having to put a sliver of it back in, but not the end of the world. So here's a rocker panel basically fit. So we just got to move that into place. That's going to be perfect for welding at the front. Now the back, kind of showed you guys, I screwed up. I cut too much. But here's basically the last piece I cut out of there. So I'm going to trim that guy up a little bit, and it'll fit right in there, and we'll just have to do 2 welds rather than 1. It's happens sometimes when you're not paying enough attention. So I'm going to pop this rocker back off. Going to need to drill a whole whack of holes for plug welding in it, paint that inner rocker. Now I can't use my hole punch on these because they're just too damn thick. There's no way it'll punch them, so I have to drill these ones. But yeah, I'm going to get that done, and I'll bring you guys back when we're ready to weld it on. Alright, so just threw the door on there. And actually I would say we are perfect. If you're ever unsure, might be a little wide. Just check the other side. Oh yeah, so yeah, I mean my finger fit in the other side, fits in this side actually. This side might be a hair wider than that side. But that is okay. So I'm going to throw a couple more tacks on that thing, and then I can take that door back off and finish weld everything, but that won't be until morning. So I think that's probably when I'll see you guys next. Yeah. Well, it's the next day here, everyone. So rocker panel is all welded on, so straightforward stuff. Welded at the front, and all our plug welds all along the bottom and along our flange here, and where I had to make that little fill-in piece in there, not a big deal. So yeah, we are ready to fit a cab corner. So gap is good. So with these, what I typically do myself, I almost always do them below this line. I say this in all the videos, but all of these rust repair panels come with a little extra. They're basically, you cut them to use what you need. Now obviously we've got good metal. I mean, I could have just done the bottom, but basically you cut until you have good clean metal and then go from there. So what I'm going to do is trim back this cab corner until I can get a nice fit to our existing panel. I will probably just butt this right up to this one. So I'm going to start trimming it, start fitting it, and I'll bring you guys along the best I can. I always just rough trim everything big and then trim until it fits. It's better to cut big and cut more off than to take a chance to cut too much off, which I did in there. I think very often as I do these, I wouldn't make those mistakes anymore. But oh, and if you're wondering in here, because this is all going to be covered up, I put some primer over the welds, and I just put some brush-on seam sealer. This Dominion Sure Seal brush-on sealer is awesome. I really like this stuff. So yeah, works great for stuff like that. So I'm just going to cut this guy back a little bit. As soon as I find my ear mufflers. Grinder. My extension cord. And some gloves. Alright, so remember when I said don't cut it too short, like I did in there? I kind of did it again. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that. You might want to go find a better video of how to do cab corners than mine, because I'm kind of having a time with this one. I've done a lot of these trucks. This one's kind of fighting me a little bit. So, I've got the cab corner fitting. I did put just a thin little sleeve in there, so I've just got it tacked in place. So once I get this guy on there, I've just got just a little bit too much gap to fill with the welder. So with that sleeve in there, then the same thing, I can just weld top and bottom. It's pretty minimal. So that's where she's gonna live. So I'm having trouble doing this one-handed, so I'm gonna just start welding this thing in place. bring you guys back in a bit. So there's everything welded up and cleaned off. So with these parts, I like to take this black electrocoat primer off, so I know I'm putting good epoxy primer back on. So at this point, I am just doing a skim of short strand fiberglass filler. This is Evercoat Everglass. So I like to just smash some of this stuff into the welds just to seal everything up, and then I'll finish that off with a little body filler after I sand this off. So we're in the booth for some primer, guys. Got her all masked up. Yeah, ready to go. So 2 coats of epoxy primer, and then I'll give it 2 coats of high build urethane primer. And then in the morning we can sand it and paint it. Next morning here, everybody. So I have, well, basically primed this up yesterday, and this morning I came out early and sanded it all. So it's all prepped with 320 grit and then finished with 400 grit. And now it is just ready to paint. So we're doing base coat, clear coat on this one. So I've got my GM WA 8555 black mixed up in the gun. So yeah, a couple of coats, 2-3 coats of black until we get coverage. And then a couple of coats of clear, so this is an easy one. So that's 3 coats of black base coat, now just a couple coats of clear. So there we are, all painted. So 3 coats of base coat, 2 coats of clear coat. So I've got a heat lamp on it right now, so I'll let that cure for a couple hours, and should be able to put this together today. So we're out of the booth here, guys. I've just thrown the rear door on, so just to get a little start on things. So we've got that one. Now before we can put the front door on, I think I showed you in the beginning of this, these pins and bushings for the front door are wasted. And I'm blown away, these actually appear to be factory. So they usually don't last that long. So these ones need to be cut out because they're mushroomed over when they're the originals. It's been one of those days. don't own a tripod. I'm going to try a Sawzall rather than a grinder just to avoid the sparks. So we just put our new hinge pins in place, nut and washer, and tighten them down. So I might need a wrench on that top, but these are pretty straightforward if you ever need to do these. Now there's two styles of these pins, guys. There's these ones that are the bolt-in ones. There's also the style that just have a C-clip that goes on the bottom. They never seem to stay tight. These are much better, in my opinion. I've had much better luck with this style than the C-clip ones. The C-clip ones, I used to use them, and I had guys coming back in 6 months with loose bushings. So I don't use that style anymore. So these ones seem to work pretty good, available at any auto parts store. So I'm just going to finish these up, and then we can get this door on. So now, because this truck has this stupid fucking lift kit, I mean, because it's a cool lifted truck, none of my door jacks will go high enough for these things. So I gotta do the old-fashioned way. And I'm getting too old for this shit. At least it's a GM. These GM doors aren't too bad. The Dodge doors, I won't try and do this myself anymore. They're way too heavy. Okay. Blocks are falling over. Okay, round two. Jesus Christ. Okay, round three. Place your bets. Am I gonna get this stupid door on, or am I gonna get pissed off and let all the air out of the tires on this piece of fine automobile? Okay. Oops, hit my welder. rotten hunk. Come on, so close. See, it's just that easy. Anyone can do it. Oh, what a pain in the ass. Okay, well, I'm gonna bolt this thing up and then we'll come back. Alright, so there's our driver's door on. Just fell into place. So if you remember before, I showed you how much play was in that thing. It moved all over the place. It's nice and tight now. So got that taken care of for him. So I'm going to continue the last little bit of assembly on the cab, and then I'll spin it around so we can get the box back on. There it is, guys, cleaned up, ready for the customer, all finished up. So yes, I know, rockers and cab corners, done them before, I'll do them again. They're kind of the bread and butter of my business, to be honest. So is it worth to keep making videos on the same thing? I don't know. If it helps somebody out, it's worth it to me. So let me know, guys, if you like this stuff. Hopefully this will help you out with your own project. You know, you might want to tackle doing this on your own truck. They are not that difficult. They are time consuming. You do need a few key tools. I mean, you need a welder, you need a few good cutting tools, but they can be done. So, as always, I'm always here. If you guys have questions, if there's something I can help with on your projects, just reach out through the social medias or through the YouTubes or through the whatever, or the old-fashioned telephone. Well, don't do that. I never hear it ring anyway. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope to see you on the next one.